Welcome to Becoming Spiritual, a podcast about the magic that surrounds us and has always been a part of us. I'm your host, Heather Dolan, a passionate seeker dedicated to bringing together beautiful humans who are doing amazing things in this world. Together, we will explore healing modalities and practical spiritual practices that can enrich your everyday life. We will also hear stories of awakenings, many from people in the corporate world who have broken out of the spiritual closet. Wherever you are in your journey, know you have found a community of open-hearted individuals committed to making themselves and our world a better place. Welcome home. In today's episode, I am joined once again by my friend Willow Shire. For those who might have missed our first episode together, you can go back to episode 11 and check that out. In today's conversation, we are talking about spirit art. Willow will share what spirit art is and how it can help people activate the magic in their life, but also how it can help remove the mask that most people wear in their everyday life. Right now, with everything that's going on in the world, I'm seeing a lot of discussions around authenticity and what it takes to truly show up and be our full, bold, beautiful, magical selves. And I think the world needs all of our magic right now. I hope this episode will perhaps inspire you to make one bold move towards living more in alignment or being your true, authentic self, whatever that looks like for you. And if this episode does inspire some action, Natalie and I would love to hear about it. So feel free to share with us on our website or leave a comment after the episode. Willow also does a live spirit art drawing for us during the episode, which is really fun to witness. I've personally experienced Willow both in person and online, and all of the guidance and wisdom he shares through his art is on another level. We also chat about what it means to be a galactic ambassador, which is kind of a fun term. So hopefully you enjoy that as well. And I just hope our conversation does his work the justice it deserves. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Becoming Spiritual. So today I am joined again with my friend Willow. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. So we're going to get into the spirit art topic. But before we do, I just want to share that if you haven't listened to episode 11, in which Willow talked a lot about healing and soul sovereignty, shared a lot of stories, got to get to know him a little bit better, please go back and listen to that. Or, maybe after this conversation, you'll feel called to listen to that episode. But he shares lots of great wisdom and different things around our healing. There's good stuff in there. So go check that out. But today we are going to go in a different direction. And I'm sure your intro will lead into this. Please share a little bit with the audience for those who might not have listened to the other episode about who you are and the work you're doing in the world right now.
Yeah, so I'm Willow Shire, and I am a spiritual artist, writer, author. Galactic ambassador is what my spirit team has given me as a label.
Oh, I love that.
And what we do is we work with people to activate them to higher awareness, mostly to activate them to their sovereignty. The goal of all my work is that people can embrace sovereignty and not have to rely on things like commercial spiritualism and the continuance of outside energy dependence. So we work to help people embrace their own spirit guides, embrace their intuition, trust themselves, getting into this space of a vibration of love, trust, truth, authenticity. And a lot of the tools that I use are in spirit art, where I draw beings and draw the guides, the ancestors, extraterrestrials, fairies, all these beings that are around people, validate things that are going on in their life that I have no awareness of, that these beings are telling me. And that helps build trust in the client. And then, energetic activations where we activate people for whatever they need. If it's healing, if it's third eye opening, if it's just finding their authenticity. A lot of my clients have just embraced their own authentic spaces, their own authentic journeys by doing this work. But that's the overall goal, is whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's artwork, writing, reels on social media, all that, it's all about how do we create more sovereignty in the community so people are dependent on themselves and not dependent on outside sources.
And that was a big part of what our last episode was about, was creating that soul sovereignty, what that means. So if you're questioning, like, what the heck is that? Go listen to that, because Willow shares a lot about how you create that space and really open yourself up, hopefully to start listening to your own soul and what it's sharing with you, and how you can tap into these things without, as you said, needing to buy something or have someone else do it for you. And I love that. I love that about you. So I love the term galactic ambassador. That's super fun. So what does that mean to you? Because I think some people are like, oh my gosh, what does that mean?
So it was kind of funny because I needed labels for social media and specifically for events. When I was doing events, people were like, what are you? And I don't use labels because I'm so much. Every person is so much. In the moment, I'm all kinds of different things, whatever I need to be. And my guides came to me and they're like, start calling yourself a galactic ambassador. And what that meant is that I am essentially an ambassador to other humans for all the dimensions, realms, spaces around us, whether they're ancestors from your lineage, whether they're fairies and dragons from Earth, or extraterrestrials like Sasquatches and other, you might hear terms like inner Earth or inner oceans and different things, or the galaxy, the universe, beings from beyond our planet. And that's where the galactic part comes in. It's everything in the galaxy, everything in the universe type of thing, where they come to me and they speak messaging. And I have a lot of experiences with different types of beings that I communicate their messages to people on social media or on, lives and different things. Or when somebody comes to a reading or a one-on-one session, I'm the person they can come to, the beings can come to, and bring the information, the activations forward for an individual to further their journey. So I become that like ambassador, just like you would think of in politics, where the ambassador is kind of the conduit. My guys always call me a conduit, like the conduit of energy that helps people embrace their truth. And when you're in that space, because I can bridge that, people end up building far more trust in the process, because I can see things and experience things and be told things I have no knowledge of. And, it's validating to the other person of, oh, hey, this stuff is real. This is not a fiction, which spirals their journey of, okay, I can do this on my own. I can do the same things that Willow or others are doing as well. I think it's important to say too, I've done most of this journey on my own for the most part, other than a period in my 20s. And that's why we always come back to, you can do it on your own too.
Yeah. You share a lot because you put so much content out there and do these lives where people can ask questions. And I know it comes up a lot of like, well, how do I start seeing fairies? I want to see a dragon. Like, how do I do that? And it goes back to that work of healing and creating that soul sovereignty for yourself, that how many years you've been cultivating all of this to be able to be where you're at, and how you talk about that. It wasn't overnight where some switch just flipped and like all of a sudden you could see dragons flying all around you or anything. So I think that's really important, because I know this day and age with Amazon dropping stuff on our doorstep within a couple hours, we're in this culture of like, we want everything to happen right now. And that's just not, it is reality, but it's like not reality.
Yeah, it's that fast food culture, instant satisfaction. And this is something I just finished with a client where I do Realms of Awakening. And Realms of Awakening is a one-on-one 8-week session where I work just very intensely every day with somebody. And there's spirit art that we use in that we use the spirit art as a tool to be like, here's who's around, here's a visual, and it brings through energy to help activate them and do different things. And the one thing that, when it comes from me, I don't think people understand it, but when it comes from somebody doing the process, I feel like it hits harder, where she said, look, I'm here to bring the energy in. I'm not here to do the work. You have to do the work. If you're going to do like these different activations or different things that, whether it's myself or others are offering, if you don't embrace the work yourself, it doesn't go as far and it doesn't stick. For me, when I was starting out, I started out a long time ago just knowing dragons were real when I was, in my teens. then I started feeling them and seeing them in my mind. And it was only the past year or two that I started seeing more of the physicality of them. And it's not even full physical images. It's like impressions and then overlays, but then you can kind of see the energy moving around and then feeling them. There's a black dragon here that when he shows up and he comes into my field, I can feel the heat coming off of him. Like this heat energy coming off of him. And a lot of that took, I mean, I'm 40 now. It took 20 years of really actively acknowledging they exist. And the way I described it, I think yesterday I was in a live, I said, a lot of us are in, if you think of it as school, a lot of us are in elementary school just waking up. Some of us are in middle school. Some of us are in high school. Some of us are the professors of university and that sort of thing. You're exactly where you are, but you have to put the work in to be able to experience all of those things.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really important. And I know, like I said, I know it comes up a lot because I see people asking the questions of, they just want that answer of like, okay, if I want to see fairies, can I just walk outside and like tap in and close my eyes and boom, they'll be there. And it's so much deeper than that. And these beings are going to appear or be present in people's lives when they're ready for that. But also they have their own healing that they're doing to be able to actually be in this space and realm with us too, right? So it's not like it's just, oh, we want this, so it should happen. They on the other side have all their own traumas and things that they've experienced through us over the thousands of years that we've been in this 3D world. So I can imagine it's discernment on both sides.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people forget is especially earth-based energies like fairies and stuff. Just because they're in another dimension or space doesn't mean they're the most healed, the best, highest version they can be of themselves. A lot of them are going through their own experiences. Galactics are going through their own experiences, all these different things where they're on their journey of embracing themselves as much as possible. They're just able to do it much more quickly in many cases. Like they process the emotions much more quickly. You don't see them get angry because they go, well, it's not that we don't get angry. They do get angry, but they can process it in a millisecond, acknowledge why, acknowledge the pattern, be like, oh, this is what I need to heal, and boom, it's gone. It's not held like we do with humanity.
Right.
But they're all growing and learning. And I've seen that with dragons, where there are younger dragons that are much more immature, I guess would be the word, than the older ones. And you can see the growth in the ages.
Like baby dragons.
Yeah, baby dragons.
Toddlers.
Some of them have fear. Like I saw one in the woods the other day where he was trying to hide. He was the size of my Subaru, but he's trying to hide between two trees, and that's it. And literally thinks he's hiding behind the two trees because he realizes I can see him, but is concerned that I can see him and has that emotion of like, is this a bad thing?
Is it safe?
It's different for every type of being, but yeah, they're all on their own journeys.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about, because you've already referenced the art, and I really want to talk about that. So spirit art, share what that is. And, I know it's such a prominent piece of the work that you're doing and that you offer to others. So if you could talk about what spirit art is, and then I'd love to hear how it evolved for you, because I know you've also written so many books, but let's start with sharing what spirit art is to you.
Yeah, so spirit art to me is actually a couple things, because you mentioned it too with the books. A lot of people forget that artwork is in writing books and other things too. But mostly what people see are the visuals, where I draw visual pieces of artwork with markers and pen and pencil and all this. And typically they're representations of the energy of a being that is around somebody. So like if a dragon comes through, if a galactic from off-world or a Sasquatch or something, I draw the energy of what they're trying to represent to the client and pass through to the client. And what happens is these pieces get layered with energy. I actually had an upgrade a while back where when I look at the paper, it looks like I'm looking into the depths of a hole in all the layers of art and energy. I can see it moving and all this type of thing. Where when somebody gets it, it becomes an activation. If they meditate on it, it's like the energy is held in that piece of artwork. Some people might call it a light code. There's probably some other terms out there, but for what we say, the simplest way to think of physical artwork is a physical representation of energy. It's just energy brought into the physical world so you can see and experience it, because most people don't have a bridge or a method of going, oh, this is real. And if I just transmit energy to people, it's like they need something physical to feel, to see, to hold, to experience.
And your energy is a lot.
Yeah.
Because I have experienced that. So I can't imagine a lot of people can hold that in if you were just to give them an energetic, I don't know what. So it makes sense that the art would be a conduit to allow them to, like, I almost see it like an IV drip, like slowly they're taking it in, and it's not this like boom.
Yeah. So I have a client that I work with who actually you met at one of the events out by Philadelphia, and she did a divine council transmission. And a divine council transmission is a piece of artwork. It's 9x12, and it's like 30, 40 beings on it. I think she did a half, if I remember right. She only did half of one, but the full thing has like 40 beings on it. And people see the artwork and they think, oh, you're just getting the artwork. It's like, no, the artwork is layered with energy. So you get that, plus you get like a PDF of 40 for each being. It's generally a page. It's like 40 pages of channeled messaging, activities, meditations, things you're supposed to do, awarenesses, all this stuff. She's had hers for a year. She went through it and she goes, oh my God, I can keep using it because it's layered energy and it reveals itself at the time you're ready for it. So I can see it and I know what's being put in. But a lot of times when people get it, they're only ready for, hey, you need to cut the cord with this person and they have to work on that. Okay, then they look at it and they go, oh my God, now I understand the messaging about healing the wounds around that person. And now I understand the messaging about authenticity or whatever it is. It's that slow drip of the energy comes through. And it's funny because she literally told me the other day, she's like, your events and your workshops need a warning message because of how powerful they are. Because she had that experience too. She was reflecting on the event that we did and said she went home and like the world looked different and all was describing it. I'm like, yeah, it's because you were being activated to higher awareness and stuff. But my artwork is like that, where the energy gets layered in. And if you use it over time, there are a few clients like her who have consistently used it over time. For her, it's been a year. For some others, it's been a little bit longer. Those are the people who keep getting activated just through that piece of artwork. Like, it's so powerful that it just keeps revealing layers and bringing things in. And I don't always know what I'm doing when I do that. I just know I'm bringing energy in. Guides are telling me, draw this, do this, put these codes here. Here's what they mean. Here's what you're allowed to tell the client. Here's what you're not allowed to tell the client. Because I do see things that they're like, you can't tell them that now, but you're understanding the energy. And it all goes into that piece of art. And then the channeling of the messaging. And then ultimately what we said before is it goes back to the person. It becomes their responsibility to work with it, to do the work. But yes, they're very powerful. And I've even had experiences of like drawing and watching sparks jump out of the pencils. And people have received them and felt them. Like, I typically, because it's my artwork, I don't feel anything vibrate or move like the physical piece. But I've had people pick them up and go, oh my God, it's like vibrating. They can feel the frequency because they're not used to it. For me, I don't feel it because it's just my frequency coming through.
Right.
But a lot of people I have Letters of Sasquatch here, which is an oracle deck that I created. And it has a bunch of light codes in it that have like, here's one. These are just random light codes of energy, art energies. But people look at those like trust and breathe. Breathe is one that I've had people look at that and just instantly it clears nasal passages. They look at it and they're like, oh my God, it just boom, their cold is cleared out type of thing.
Oh, wow. I could use that right now.
So
Hold it up again.
See if it works. And what you do with the art is you just feel into it. People are always like, hey, what do I do with it? And it's about not looking at the image, but feeling the image, bringing it to your heart space, feeling the energy of it to see what it does. So it's one of these things that it's a very powerful tool that I grew into using because I always drew as a kid. I was always drawing. Now, what I didn't realize is as a kid, I was drawing to escape stress, emotion. My family was not a healthy family dynamic. It's very toxic. And it was a way for me to focus my brain and have somewhere to put my energy and kind of ignore the world. So I was always drawing, Star Wars characters, aliens, monsters, all kinds of stuff. And then 2017 is when my counselor was like, hey, you need to start writing. And for a year, I started putting together ideas of like stories that I would write, things that I wanted to do for writing fiction books and these different things. As that happened, I realized I could go to conventions and sell my books, which engaged me more in doing artwork because I could sell artwork. And so I started drawing again and working with the physical artwork, and not realizing at the time that my books, I have a urban fantasy series, for example, that people were reading and they were coming to me and talking to me at the tables. And it took me a while before I was like, why do people keep talking in this way? And Spirit's like, your books are literally healing them. Like, you don't realize your books are more than just books. They're spirit art. They're these realms of people going in and being able to escape but heal themselves in the process of reading some of these things. And I didn't know where that was going to lead. It was just an awareness that, what I'm doing is helping people. And then I left my ex. I was in a relationship for 11 years. That was not a good relationship. I left her and I moved into an apartment back in Ohio. And I was sitting there and my guides say, hey, we want you to stop working for a month. And I was doing web development, freelancing as a web developer. I'm like, a month? I can't afford to take off a month. I lived at that time paycheck to paycheck. Everything flowed, but it was very like you had to keep projects coming in. And they go, no, we'll figure it all out. And they brought in enough money to start projects to keep me going for a month or two. And they stalled every other project I had open. Spirit literally cleared the schedule. And they go, sit down and start drawing the spirits around you, because I had this awareness. I was on a phone call one day with a development team that I was working with, and I was just doodling. And as I was doodling, it just came to me that I was doodling one of the guides of one of the people on the call, and had never realized I had been doing that. It was just like this awareness and I had this experience long after I was working with all of these beings, dragons, galactics, Sasquatches, guides, all this. I was been doing that for many years very intensely. And then all of a sudden it just clicked. Like every time I was doodling energy around me. And they go, we want you to spend that 2 or 3 months sitting down every day and drawing what comes to you. And so I did that. This was a single story apartment building. So it was on the ground floor. And there was a woodland, not like a wild one. It was kind of in the middle of a town where it's like just a patch of woodland sitting there on the other side of the road. And suddenly I saw fairies starting to come up to my window, pass through, and they'd jump on the table and they'd be like, hey, how are you doing? And I'd sit there and I'd draw them. And all kinds of different styles, different ways. They'd have different messaging. I did that for many months. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew about this. I had social media I was doing with my books and other things. But I kept it secret because I'm like, I'm actually doing this and the fairies are coming through like up to the window and I'm seeing them in my mind and drawing them and doing all this. I went to a convention and there was somebody I met there who wasn't going to go to the show. They were nudged to go and it was a 10-hour drive and they ended up taking the 10 hours to drive and showed up. She saw my fairy book. I had those books at the time, the first 3 nonfiction books. She saw my fairy book and was like, oh, I think this is going to help me. And she bought it. But then I saw on her shoulder, there was this little being who kept saying, can you draw me for her? And I was like, I don't share that with people. I don't know her. I'm not going to approach her and be like, hey, there's a little fairy telling me to draw it. So she came around to the table and we started talking more every time she came around. And finally I say, hey, just an odd question. I do this spirit art thing. Do you care if I just draw for you and see what comes up? And I didn't tell her what was happening. She goes, yeah. And I drew this little fairy being and this messaging about how it's on her shoulder and how it sends these different messages and all this different stuff. It validated everything she had been experiencing. She had been seeing it. She had been feeling it. The messaging was all on point. And then it validated me of going, oh, wow, I am doing this, but other people can receive it. And it took about a year. When I was banned on Amazon, I put out the Raise Your Vibration book, Unleash Your Spirit. And the feeling I got was that, that's a big story you can find on my YouTube. And in my newest book that's coming out, The Authentic Extraterrestrial, I go into it, where it felt like an attack on my energy and my work to see if I was going to move forward and to kind of stall me. And I was like, well, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep doing this. But I was relying on book sales, and Spirit went, well, we might spin you into spirit art. And I had worked with Nicole, the High Priestess 11, as many watching this might know who she is, but she was working with me somehow. I forget. I think Spirit nudged me to do a reading, which was really strange. I don't get readings from anybody. And Spirit was like, get a reading from Nicole. She validated that I was time traveling, that I was doing spirit art, that I was doing these things that she didn't know anything about. And we were kind of like, okay, well, what's the reason of this connection? Because I just never do readings. And when the ban came through, there was an opportunity where I was able to do readings for Nicole, as when she said, hey, you can do spirit art. I feel this is part of your path. I said, hey, can I do a couple readings for you? And she accepted. And I did 3. And the first 2 she wasn't too sure about them. But the third one was a guide that she works with, that her and I both work with closely, called Papa Legba in African mythology. I think he's a Legwa, but he's like a deity of gatekeeping. He's a trickster god. He's all these other things. But I drew him and validated all kinds of ways that she saw him. And she's like, oh my God, you absolutely know what you're doing. You're the real deal. You should do this. So I was like, do I sell it? What do I do? Then the ban came through on Amazon and I went, yep, I have to spin into some other thing while I'm doing web development. I was still trying to get out of the web development job. And so I put it online and just went, hey, I'm doing spirit art for free. And if you want something, I'll do it, because I wanted to build practice, validation, and get people to see the work. Wasn't even sure it was going to turn into anything. I didn't expect it to be where it's at today at all. I was literally doing pencil sketches, and people were donating money and going, wow, this is so accurate. This is so powerful, and donating money, and they could feel it. So I continued forward to a point, I think it was 3 to 6 months later, where I started offering colored spirit art for a price. And it was like there was a period of time you could choose a free one or you could get it colored. People started buying the colored. And then it became more powerful. And over time, Spirit led me into, okay, start doing more detailed pieces, more in-depth pieces. And a lot of it was just practice. I didn't know the spiritual words. I didn't know what a light code was. I didn't know what any of the concepts and labels that the community uses. I just learned it and practiced it and developed it by doing it, by embracing it. And then over time, the word light code came to me one day through social media probably. And Spirit was like, that's the thing that you've been doing, but that's what the humans call it. And we expanded it from individual readings into sessions and the one-on-ones and divine council transmissions, the bigger pieces, where everything I do somehow integrates the artwork as a means of transmitting information. But everything comes back to, and I've always been like this, where it's like, I don't want to trap people into a cycle of, here's a change and you have to come back.
Yeah.
My clients have been I just posted a reel when I was talking to my latest Realms of Awakening client, and she left spiritual commercialism 30 years ago. And for some reason, my stuff kept showing up on her feed. The guides kept pushing her to it. And she took Realms of Awakening, which it's a big commitment to do. But when she took that, she goes, I didn't do anything for 30 years. Her husband and her even had conversations about, is this real? Is this another trap? And they followed the guidance and she went through with it. And she goes, oh my God, this is the next level. This artwork, these activations, these are what people need, not the continuous reliance on others. They need the push into sovereignty, authenticity, okay, now I know I have tools. That was a big thing. Like, I'm always about the artwork is a tool. And whether you do a single session with me or you do like a big course, you walk away with some sort of tool to keep you moving forward on your own. That's basically how it evolved. It was just a practice of sitting down with them, with the guides, working on it, developing it, seeing what people reacted to, how they felt with it. And then as it grew, as the foundation built and more clients were coming and we were seeing, oh, we can activate people to sovereignty. I don't do as many one-on-one, like the regular readings anymore. I feel the regular readings are often seen as like people come, they do them, they walk away, but they don't always move forward with it. It's kind of more like a tarot reading. I still offer the other stuff and I do like special events with the mini readings. And there are a lot of people with the mini readings who take those and continue working with them. But the mini readings themselves and even just the regular spirit art one-on-one sessions, a lot of times people come, they get what they need, but they don't push further with it. When you make that bigger commitment, it's like I had one person in January, did Realms of Awakening, was thinking of doing an energy business, is now full-time in her energy business, thriving in it, moved into her own space because of doing that Realms of Awakening.
Yeah.
And shifting into that, I can do it myself. Some of those clients do come back and do some other things because they're like, oh, they're nudged to go get another activation, or some of them just enjoy it. Like I have some people who come back and literally just because they enjoy it. But everybody leaves knowing you don't have to rely on will. You can move forward. You can see things. And most of them, even though we talk about the spirit art, what happens is in those in-depth experiences, whether it's the Divine Council, Realms of Awakening, or the spirit art activation, the group thing that I do. I have a small group that I do with 4 people right now. Everybody's walking away with like third eye awareness. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily seeing stuff, but they can see through more discernment of truth in that. But a lot of them are like, oh my God, I can see my guides now. I can see the fairies. I can see the ETs. That some of them are watching beings like portal into their spaces, dragon communication and experiences, all that stuff that people want to do. Mm-hmm. That comes with embracing your sovereignty and doing the work. There's no magic pill, I guess. But when we create the energy and the artwork and tell you like, hey, work on healing your inner child, and you sit with your inner child and you honor that and you start being more creative. There was a woman in her 60s that took the spirit art activation the last class, and immense, tremendous healing with her inner child that I had told her long before I knew her, you have an inner child wound. It was shut down when you were a kid, and that's why you're having trouble with all this stuff. Then she went through that activation, and literally that was the activation, was overcoming this healing of it as a child, which once she did that, boom, everything opened up.
Wow.
Like she did the healing, and then she's seeing all kinds of things, feeling them, moving into her authenticity, in her 60s, left her relationship because it was toxic and made that shift.
So I am one of those people that have many of your pieces and have done many of the small, like mini readings. And so I am very guilty of not sitting with it and doing the work. And I get distracted by the 3D stuff, like, every minute of the day. So I'm just curious how, other than intuitively like going in and listening to myself and saying, okay, where should I start? Because I have stuff with dragons. There was a deity that came through that I was so honored when you mentioned to me that this, deity wanted to work with me or was welcoming me into it. Then I was like, I'm not really sure what to do or how to sit with this or how to act. So I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about that, for maybe there's people like me that have gotten these amazing things and we have not. really done the work we need to do.
Yeah. It's a matter of a couple things. Like everybody's lifestyle is different. I talk about back in 2020 when I was meditating 3-4 times a day, a half hour at a time, journaling for 40 minutes to an hour after. Not everybody can do that. That's a big awareness that, the more work you can do, the faster you accelerate, but also to understand, what is your reality? What is your lifestyle in the moment? They always remind me too, the guides, that there's this idea of we don't have time. But typically, if I was talking to people about like, hey, they want to write a book or they want to shift their career, we would say, okay, you don't have to do it today. You just have to find 5 minutes. And if you can find 5 minutes, which most people can find 5 minutes a day to sit down and dedicate to one thing or another. And it comes down to prioritizing. Okay, if you want to prioritize the artwork, the activations, all that, taking 5 minutes at least a day and going, I'm doing this, I'm sitting down with it, and I'm going to work with it. So like for a mini reading, for example, you would take the mini reading and you would just look at it, stare at it, feel into it, and try to bring yourself into your heart space and feel the energy of it.
Okay.
And then I would tell people to breathe in, do some like breath work, just some, 4 counts, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. Close your eyes and feel the energy of that with your eyes closed. And then just ask yourself, ask your guides, ask the universe, what is this telling me right now? What do I need to know from this right now? Now, as to which ones to work with, because like you said, you in particular have there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of these little mini readings. And I even sell them like 3 at a time too. It's a matter of in the moment looking at them and going, which kind of like you would with tarot cards and oracle cards, like which one calls me? Which one should I work with today? Which one pops out? And
I think I should put them in like
one.
little albums so I have them. So I could, like how you display, your art where it's like you can flip through and see it like a deck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's this idea of what's resonant to you in the moment. And when it comes to the work, just in general, whether it's a mini reading or a divine counsel transmission. And for example, a divine counsel transmission, just so people have a little more idea, it's broken into vibrational realm. So some beings are like, the one corner will be all fairy, earth-based energies. One might be inner earth, oceans, angels, dragons, sky beings, galactics. They're broken into these spaces. And it's the same thing where it's like you look at the transmission and you go, okay, who do I feel like I'm supposed to work with right now? And a lot of the clients that have had those bigger pieces, that's what they do. They go, okay, right now they're telling me I need to work with this guide and this guide. I have one client, he did an early transmission like a few years ago when it wasn't, they're up to 40 beings right now, but I think his was like 25 or something. He's only worked with 3 or 4 of them.
Wow.
Because it's very specific. And he's like, okay, I'm working with this intentionally. I'm working with this one intentionally, working with this one. And then they tell him, okay, now jump to this one, jump to that one.
Yeah.
It's not about doing them in order. It's not about only focusing on fairies. Although when it comes to vibration, what I teach, especially in that spirit art activation, is if you want to engage and strengthen your vibration with that space even more, the more you work just with those beings, the stronger you'll become. It's like a radio station. So, fairies are one radio station, dragons are over here, angels are over here, Sasquatch, all this stuff. And you tune to the station. If you're jumping around, you're just kind of jumping around and not focused. But if you tune to like the station of fairies, what happens is you experience that station and then you start experiencing the ones around it. So you might, have a gnome come through a reading. And as one of my guides is like, mention the Fraggles. If anybody saw Fraggle Rock when we were kids.
Yeah, like Muppets.
Yeah, there are beings out there that look like the Fraggles, and we'll use that as a metaphor. But if you tap into, say, the frequency of gnomes, what happens is if you just work with that frequency of gnomes, you'll start to feel the frequency of pixies and sprites and elves and trolls and things that live beside the gnomes. You'll start to expand in that. Versus if you do gnomes, then dragons, and jump over here and jump over there, you're not integrating fully. So that's another thing where when you have artwork, if you have a bunch, it's like, okay, do you want to work more with dragons? Do you want to work more with the gnomes, angels, whoever it is? And then integrating that frequency, and you'll experience more of them in a stronger connection faster than you would by jumping around.
I'm a jumper.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of jumping.
And that's fine.
Because there's so much. It feels like there's so much I want to do and experience. So it's so hard.
Yeah, I've had a lot of clients that they're like, but I like jumping. And I go, it's perfectly fine to jump. Just know that when you jump, it takes longer to integrate. It's like practicing a muscle, right? If you only work on your right bicep and then you do your left every once in a while and some legs every once in a while, your right bicep's going to get really big. But then the rest of your body's going to be not as strong.
Right. You're going to look a little weird.
Yeah. So, and when you do that too, and I've started seeing this even more when I walk around, I see myself as a ball of light, not the physical form, but like golden, like darker golden energy of the human body moving around. And they go, when you specifically work with one group of vibration, what happens is when you come into the area, they can see your energy. They can see your energy because you're tuned to that energy, which is why some people are very attuned to angels but have no connection to fairies. We're very attuned to dragons but have no connection to angels. And, there's a lot of discussion about like, maybe we shouldn't work with this realm or work with that realm. And it's simply that it's the choices people make. And with every single realm you work with, you will have to heal fear. So when it comes down to that too, and you're working with one, you're doing a lot of healing work, inner child work. We were told these beings weren't real. If you're working with fairies, they're very playful, very loving, very mischievous. There's a lot of different energies in there, but they are that term of fairies, which heals a lot of inner child stuff. But then you go to work with dragons. Some of the dragons are extremely fearsome, extremely intense energies that will just stir the depths of fear in your soul that you have to work through and you have to heal. And so when you start working with those groups too, they will bring out things in you that it's like, okay, yeah, you were working with the super nice, friendly things. Not that dragons aren't friendly, they are, but their energy is more powerful in digging out and clawing things out of your energy field to present to you and be like, deal with this, release this type of energy. So the more you work those realms, and you'll get to a point where you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm really in touch with fairies. And then you're drawn over here to do this healing work, or you jump around. But no matter what you do, it's all going to require healing. It's all going to require trust. As the world shifts and moves forward, one of the messages they've been asking me to tell people is people are going to be challenged in their trust of self over outside sources. So you're going to have a lot of outside sources coming and saying, don't do this work. This is bad. This is negative. This is that. And people are going to be challenged in that trust. And that's a lot of it is like building your own trust in your field, your sovereignty. And they will teach you that. They will help you do that, help you create a connection where it's like, you don't have to ask them, what do I do next? You just do what you want to do and do what's authentic to you, and everything flows. Everything gets better, more aligned. I've been calling it aligned authenticity, this idea that you're in alignment and authentic at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you do that, they come to you, they help you, they have some of them just become friends.
Do you find too, when you are in that vibration and you are aligned, that a lot of that outside noise doesn't actually make it to you anymore because it's not on the same frequency. So it almost like helps build up that ability to not have those things kind of touch you and come to you where you're questioning that. When you get to this place of more sovereignty or being in touch with yourself, that right away of things that used to maybe come and make you question that over time just aren't even coming into your field anymore, where it's just like, yeah, I just don't even get that information anymore.
Yeah, 100%. It's this idea of your field becomes so strong that you'll feel stuff. We describe it as like this really strong bubble. And then if something's unaligned and can't get in, you'll feel it touch your field and you'll be like, what's that? And like dismiss it, go away, get out of here. And most things, if it's of a negative intent, will just leave. They'll see how stronger your energy is and they'll leave. I've had some stuff that's been curious. And I asked my team, I'm like, do I need to worry about this thing? Because have you seen Donnie Darko? There's a character called Frank who's a rabbit, who's this like really creepy looking rabbit costume.
Okay.
And the being looked like this creepy rabbit thing and straight out of Donnie Darko. Ooh. And it was shape-shifting. It moved onto a log, it shape-shifted into a rabbit, then into the Frank rabbit, then to more of a human type of thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. But the field becomes so strong that some things become curious, but they're not going to bother you. And like with him, he didn't bother me. It was this idea of here's a new vibration I'm not used to. Here's a being I've never experienced. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I have fear coming up in me because I have no experience or idea what this is. And I have to go, okay, where's this fear coming from? Is it mine or is it warranted? Mm-hmm. And then ultimately set my energy to be like, okay, no, not right now. Leave me alone. And he just stayed out in the distance and left me alone. And then you have energy that like where you walk into a city, when I go from here, this is very light where I'm at in the mountains, very light, very peaceful, lots of energies coming back and forth, dragons all over the place. But you go into the city and you start picking up the energy of the city. And the way I describe it is your field is strong. But when I go into the city, or when I'm out here in the nature, it's like wide, it's like open, it's light. When I go into a denser place, it's like things squish it and start pressing, and it starts condensing and condensing and condensing. You're still strong and sovereign, but there's a reason we go through clearing practices or do things that are, higher, we call it higher vibrational, whether it's eating and joy and sunlight and nature and breath work, all this different stuff to keep the field strong and push out the negative energies. And what I find is when they do come, if they do somehow get into your field, you'll start feeling like, oh, this is not of the highest space. You'll like feel it's like lower to the ground. My experience is it's lower to the ground versus higher in energy. And so I have like this experience of feeling where the energy's at. Doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It just means be very careful what you're listening to. And typically those things are going to be like trying to seed doubt and fear. And then you just call your power back and get into a better mind space and acknowledge, okay, how did that get in there? Why is that there? Also recognizing it, is it there because of something inside of you? A lot of people place emphasis on beings that are demons, for example. It's a word I hate, but they place emphasis on that when it's actually your own fears manifesting in front of you to tell you you have a fear of this thing and you need to release it.
Right.
If something approaches you and your spirit team did not bring it, like a spirit guide did not bring it or tell you, hey, we're bringing somebody to you, then you go through levels of discernment and always ask yourself or ask it, why is it here? What is it doing? What does it want? And dig into the details, get detailed with it. When they answer, ask another question to get them to detail it more. And then always ask yourself too, are you safe? Are they threatening you? What are they doing that's negative that you have a reason to fear them? I mean, so many people fear Sasquatches, and I draw a lot of Sasquatch energy. They're even more and more now. They're trying to connect with people. And there's so many people who fear Sasquatches, but don't have an understanding that literally they're just standing there looking at you. They're not being aggressive. They're not doing anything. And the stories of aggression are either because somebody was doing something that was low frequency in the wilderness, so they're trying to chase them out of that area, or because it wasn't a Sasquatch and people didn't know what they were dealing with.
My sister just shared a story recently when we did our episode together on how a Sasquatch, like she believes a Sasquatch saved her. She was going the wrong direction in the woods and she was completely lost. Her phone was dead. This was years ago and nothing was around and she was starting to panic. And then she heard music, which I know is like a common, to kind of call her, and ultimately brought her to a house where she was able to ask for help and they were able to get her back to her car or whatever. And she was like, and they had said, if you had gone, or maybe she ended up, I can't remember if she went to a house or like found like one of the park rangers. I can't remember if she said it was Sasquatch, but hearing that music guided her towards humans. It was a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I've had many of those experiences where they've guided just myself through things. And chances are it was a Sasquatch. I mean, there are more of them around than people know. You just can't see them physically. And they can shift. They can lower their density and shift so we can, but a lot of people can't. And then you have other spirits like the indigenous, where I was actually, it's this mountain right in front of me. They told me to come down this one path. And because I was so strong in my intuition and what I was hearing, this indigenous spirit, she guides me down this decline that you can't walk straight down. And there's cactuses and there's stuff all over the place. And I'm in sandals. I hike in sandals, which is, don't do that.
Yeah.
like I do that because
don't
I
take
trust
hiking
myself.
or cold camping tips from Willow, because he is very experienced and has a lot of guidance and protection.
Yeah, I do this because I know I can, and they'll tell me like, you can go up there, and I'll look at my sandals and be like, really? And they'll go, yes, and I'll follow their instructions. And she brought me down telling me, okay, put your foot here and put your foot there. And she's standing beside me and she's like, see that rock? You're going to walk over to that rock. Then you're going to walk back this way. And she goes, there's an elk trail down at the bottom. I can't see this thing. I don't know it exists. And I get closer to the bottom and boom, there's an elk trail. And take the trail and then keep on walking. But when you get into that space, these beings, whether it's a Sasquatch, indigenous, or whoever's around, sometimes I've had galactics that are in ships like telepathically showing me a bird's eye view of what's ahead because of their scanning and things. And they'll be like, oh, just turn right down there and guide me straight to a gas station or straight to whatever I need. It becomes this thing of like so much trust that they help you at the same time because they know you're down here and we're here to shift so they can experience more.
I'm wondering if you're open to this, and you could totally say no, but I'm wondering if you would be open to doing like a mini reading for me now so people can hear or see what that's like.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because most of the time when we've done this, it's because you're doing a specific, whether it's a dragon or fae, or if there is someone like gods and goddesses who want to come through. So I think it's really interesting when there's no specific genre of what we're doing here. I'm very curious to see, because it could be just a code, like you've drawn codes too.
Yeah, it could end up being anything. I think it's going to be Sasquatch energy though. They're very strongly around and present and watching right now, and that's what I'm feeling.
Maybe that's why we ended up talking about them.
Yeah, because I even asked, I was like, why is it coming up so much? And they're like, because some of them came up and felt it.
I love that. Anytime I'm in the woods or like on a lake and looking out into the wooded areas, I'm always like, oh, I wonder who's looking back at me.
The thing that we didn't mention is that a lot of the books are free on my website, the ebooks.
Yes.
And in there are some experiences of the Sasquatches, and one of them is Kunlai, where I could like physically see and feel her beside me. And we were sitting on a rock with a mermaid beside us on a lake, watching the boats go by, and nobody's paying attention. And we're laughing. People probably see me laughing, but we're all laughing because like we're sitting there talking, having a good time, but nobody knows what's going on.
Right. It's like your own joke.
Yeah.
That feels like the beginning of a joke of like a Sasquatch, a mermaid, and me are sitting on a rock.
Oftentimes they're around, but people just aren't aware.
Right.
And it's not just them, it's other beings too that are in the woods and other dimensionalities.
In the woods, there's a lot of portals too, where they're coming in and out, right?
Other than my own experience, because I see them all over the place, but I have clients that have sat down and felt the portals open behind them and felt, the rocks and seen stuff move in and out. The most recent Realms of Awakening client watched a being for the first time, one of her first physical experiences. She goes, I looked over and something crossed the road. I think it was the road. And like nobody's watching it, just nonchalant walks across and goes to go through a portal or something. or maybe it came out. I don't remember. It was either leaving or coming out. And she goes, I can see you. And it stops. And it turns and it's like, you can see me? Like, you've never seen me. People never see type of thing. But
Oh,
these
wow.
all over the place. And in that spirit art activation, I've had one of the clients goes into the woods and has a portal that Sasquatches and wolf humanoids and some other beings pass in and out of. I've seen like fairies move through them, like Alice in Wonderland type of experience where they move from their world to our world. Galactics, ETs and stuff, passing through dimensions, ships doing the same thing. But there are more portals in the woodlands than you would know. And I think a lot of that is because it's untouched. And when it's in the metro city areas, they block the energy. Not just the city itself, but like there are people who specifically build things to block or siphon the energy from those things and make it so beings can't pass through.
Which is why there's such a, I feel like I hear all the time when people talk about going to nature. Obviously, we experienced that a lot during the pandemic where people were called to leave cities and go find peace and just quiet and whatever it was they needed in nature, in the woods. And I feel like more and more, the more I talk to people, like everyone is feeling that call from big cities. And it doesn't mean you have to pick up and move to the middle of nowhere, but even just getting out, getting outside, finding grass, touching trees, going to see them, finding that space, you know, like when you talk about, when I think of sitting with your art of like going to a place that's close to me, like Longwood, and bringing it with me and sitting with the trees and having it there to do a meditation or just sit quietly and bringing them into the process too. I'm curious about that, of bringing the artwork as a way to activate maybe other things that are around you in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can take the artwork with you and do things with it, for certain. Especially if you end up with artwork of like this is going to be a Sasquatch activation is what they're saying. But if you have that and you take it into the woods, the energy is going to be more resonant there than it is in your house or in the city.
That makes sense.
And man, I'm still getting used to this activation that I have that's trippy with my third eye where I can, like, everything moves off the page. It's almost like wearing 3D glasses, but
Interesting.
colors, and then they move. The day it activated a month or so ago, I was drawing with this orange, and I watched the layer of orange color drop through the artwork to like the bottom layer because the orange, even though it was on top, wasn't meant for the client until they dug through the other.
Oh, wow.
It's trippy. It's not my artwork either. I actually have that experience now with other people's artwork who are either knowingly or unintentionally creating an actual code, because there is like less energetic artwork. And then there's people who are doing very high energy art, but don't realize they're actually channeling some stuff like that, like paintings opening and like things in the paintings moving because it's a window into another reality and another timeline.
So tell us what's going on right now as you're drawing. You're getting messages of like, do this, do that. Like sometimes does your hand just move?
So a lot of times my hand just moves. The energy comes in and it tells my hand how to move.
Okay.
Or they tell me like, hey, pick up this color. Like, hey, pick up this green neon and draw an eye type thing. Do this shape. They kind of like telepathically see what I'm doing. And because they're far more advanced with the energy, they can help guide the energy onto the page and tell me where it needs to go, how it needs to lay out, yell at me if like, no, I'm going to do it this way. And then I make a thing and they're like, you weren't supposed to do that. So now we got to put something over it.
Well, it's just so interesting that you can talk to me about movies, but still have that going on. Like, how does that work that you can take both in? Like, you can be output and input at the same time.
Yeah, it's very, very practiced for me. I'm so used to communicating with them that it's just natural. Most people, when they take the spirit art activation, we use that artwork as a tool for them to connect. And it's like, find yourself a quiet space, non-distracting, that type of thing. You get to a point where you no longer need the meditation. You no longer need to actually say the intention. Your field just, it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
Basically. It becomes so easy that I can do this and I can talk to people, but I've practiced it a lot on sessions. I've practiced it talking to them while I'm drawing and I'm talking to them too, having that experience and just raising to a point that I can do that without distraction, without energy coming in and with me knowing who I'm talking to. And it's like being in control of like 2, 3 different aspects of yourself at once, but seeing everything and managing it.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of like, oh, how can I relate to that? And I'm like, yeah, most of the time it feels like your head is going to explode if too much input is coming in. And it's like, wait, where's this coming from? And you're trying to do something other than like mindless driving, where it's like innate, but, you know,
I let it flow. I don't block it. So I don't let my ego get involved. It's like a
yeah.
separation. I can separate myself easily as an observer and like kind of stand outside of myself. I've even had that
Yeah.
at the events where I stand outside of myself looking at my body. My body's doing things and moving the energy the way it needs, but I'm also talking to people. It gets into the multidimensional part where you really are many aspects of yourself that we don't have the experience of because it's been so shut down. That you're powerful when you can get into these spaces of being like, I can do multiple types of energy things at once and still carry conversations and have this different awareness. We're very powerful multidimensional beings. We're just relearning how to access that, and that's grown over time. I mean, 3 years ago when I started spirit art, no, I had to be drawing, focused, only doing this,
Right.
and couldn't even talk to the clients while it was going on. But now I've done so many lives and so many things that it becomes a muscle memory. At first, you have to focus and learn, and you're messing up the shoes as a kid all the time.
Right.
And then you get to the point where you're not even looking, and you're just like, "Hey, what's going on?" And boom, your
Yeah.
shoes are tied, and you don't even know you tied your shoes. Like you
Yep.
do it, and you don't remember.
So true. Yeah, that's a very good practical 3D example.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's coming in?
So we've got this here. It's a Sasquatch activation, is what they're calling it.
Okay.
Focusing on this energy to help you connect to Sasquatch energies around you. Now, the thing to remember is not everybody has that energy around them. Collectively, they're showing this for a reason, which means there are people out there watching this that will. But if you meditate on it, if you print it out, take it into the woods, I'll take a picture and share it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Take like a copy on your phone or print it out, take it into the woods with you or into nature. You can even find them in city parks. It's not easy, but if you're in a city, go sit at a city park and see what comes up for you. It will connect you, even if it doesn't connect you necessarily to a Sasquatch. It may connect you more just to the land spirits. But there's an energy and a release. They're saying there's some fear release energy in there, not intense. I can actually see where the energy's at. Because when they told me to put that in there, I was kind of like, what? Because when we do fear release codes, they tend to be very intense.
This is a fear release light situation.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's some other stuff in there, but what it's for is for everybody to feel in for themselves and feel what it activates within you. So again, I'll share this with Heather and on my platform too when the episode comes out, and that way people can get access to it in a digital way.
Awesome. Thank you. And a lot of times when you're doing this, when the information's coming in, you're sharing or asking sometimes questions of like, this is coming in or that's coming in. Does this resonate or does this make sense? Almost like a psychic reading where like someone's asking questions as they're getting information and trying to figure out how does this relate to you? Because I know sometimes you're like, this is what they're sharing, so hopefully it makes sense to you. And of course, sometimes it might take a little bit to click and it's like, oh my gosh, now I know what he meant.
100% when it's an individual thing, it's typically, hey, they're telling me this about a childhood. And, the example I have that's on the tip of my tongue is the client that went through the spirit art activation. She's in her 60s. She did a mini reading. And in the mini reading, I said, you were a kid. They're showing me you as a kid being very creative. Then there was some traumatic event and it was like no creativity at all, like zero, not doing anything. And I sent that to her and she immediately knew what it was. And then she was guided to that activation and started through it. Just a message too of it's never too late to do that work. But when we do individual readings, a lot of it is they're telling me things I don't know, and it'll be some of the craziest stuff. The metaphors, the examples they're using. I'm like, I really, what are you giving? I don't have an example to show now, but it'll be the craziest thing. And because I just go, okay, I'm just going to say it and leave it with them, and it clicks for the client.
Yep.
And they go, oh my God, how did you know about the blue ribbon on the tree or something as a kid? Or, things that seem like wild details. Where is that coming from? What does it mean? But it clicks in the client.
Yeah. Or it could be something really simple that's like, oh, this red balloon. And it's like, that could be so significant for someone. But you think it's like, I mean, what is a red balloon? And it could be something they're signed from someone who's passed or something from their childhood, one of their favorite memories or something.
Yeah. It's like ETs came one time and told the client, remember when you were walking uphill, struggling with your breath all of the time, and you saw us? And they gave her an example. And it went into a little more detail than that. It seemed vague. It seemed like, hey, I could make this up, that type of thing. She comes back and she goes, no, I lived on a hill in California, and it was on a mountain. They had to drag their garbage cans, and she would drag and huff and puff all the way up the hill with her garbage cans. And there were many times she swears she saw ETs. Really described it without giving all the details, but enough of the details to be like, trust.
Yeah. Having that trust.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Before we wrap, we'll share all your information, your website, all your social media handles. You do the lives. You do them really regularly, right? Like sometimes a couple a week.
Yeah. Usually at least one a week on it. The days tend to move around, but typically like Fridays, Sundays are my days. I say that having done one yesterday on Thursday.
But you always post usually when it's coming. And that way, if people want to join and ask you like a general question for topics, you're so gracious with doing that. And then, of course, I assume you're accepting clients for all of the things, because I know the Divine Council is like such a big piece of work for you. And you have your Realms of Awakening and the Spirit Art groups, which is like the groups of 4.
Yeah, I have that number. And then I have wait lists. So if you see something and you're like, oh, you can't get into it, I add you to a wait list. And like the Spirit Art activation, for example, I'm going to take a month or 2 off after this one. I'll be building a wait list to be like, okay, when the wait list has enough people ready, then we'll open it again and do another one. Yeah. So always reach out if you're like, hey, I saw this thing, but it wasn't open. I saved the names and everything.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so we'll make sure to share that as well. And we'll share the beautiful drawing that you just did for us. So thank you for doing that live in real time. That's so fun. And I just encourage everyone to check out, I'm a huge supporter, and I love your work and believe in it. And I know how much you're doing to help humanity. So thank you. Anything that you kind of want to leave with us before we wrap?
Thank you for everything. And the only thing I would say is work through your fear, acknowledge it, release it, and work on building the strength in yourself. There's going to be a lot coming that's going to test people. And the biggest thing is for you to be able to work through your own fears in a healthy way while having strength within your own energetic body and not relying on everybody outside of you. That's the biggest message we have, is build your sovereignty with authenticity, which is an entirely another topic for another time. But
for sure, authenticity is coming up multiple times a day for me, even of like, am I fully in my authenticity? I mean, I think I am, but I think there's always more layers to uncover of like, oh, well, I actually haven't mentioned that I have a podcast to this person, and why haven't I done that? So I think there's always these ways that we can keep stepping into who we are and being authentic. And yeah, I found it just has improved my life a lot doing that. So I hope others do too.
Yeah, same.
Well, thank you. So glad to have you on. And I'm sure we'll think of like many other topics that we will have you back for, but I'm so grateful for the time today. Thank you. We're going to share all of this at becomingspiritual.me. We have a resources page now where it has all the episodes. It has all of the links, anything that we mention in the show as well. So we try to have it in multiple places outside of the episodes because we know people listen on different platforms. So make sure that if you're looking for something, go to the website as well, or certainly you can always message us, and can't wait for you to come back again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your precious day to listen to our podcast. If this episode resonated with you, we would love for you to share it with someone you love. That would mean the world to us. Also, if you feel called, please follow our show so you will know when a new episode drops. If you want to go one step further, you can even rate this episode as it allows our podcast to find its way to others. Lastly, we've done our best to share resources that you might find helpful in the show notes, whether that's a book recommendation or a website we referenced during the episode, a free resource, or more information on a guest who took their time to speak with us and share their knowledge. We would love for you to support their work too. You can find more information on our podcast website at becomingspiritual.me. We love you and can't wait for you to hear the next episode. Until then, know you have a place where you are welcome and you are loved. Welcome home.